Council Chambers at 803 West Holland Avenue, City of Alpine, Texas. Leave all your detail may be found at www.cityofalpine.com. This notice is posted pursuant to Texas Open Meeting Act, Section 551.043, Texas Government Code. Members of the audience will be provided an opportunity to address on any agenda item after determination of form and proof of notice for the meeting. Zoom meetings, guidelines, and procedures may be found on the city website. Remarks will be limited to a total of 3 minutes per person. Please speak into the microphone located at the podium and state your name and address in person. Please speak into the microphone at the podium, state your name and address in person. Kind of lost a few letters, not big enough. When addressing the council, please introduce yourself by first and last name and state the board that allow the board that you reside in or have business interest in. For public comments and for public comments made by virtual attendance, please email your name and ward that you reside in or have business interest in. For public comments made by virtual attendance, please email your name to the meeting moderator at g.galvedon@ci.alpine.tx.us. If you do not live or own property in the city, please state that in your email. If you have a petition or other information pertaining to your subject, please email it to the city secretary beforehand at city.secretary@ci.alpine.tx.us. State law generally prohibits the council from discussing or taking any action on any issue not included on the agenda. But if appropriate, the council may schedule that topic for future discussion or refer the matter to staff. No personal attacks on council members or city staff will be allowed. The mayor and city council members may call upon to order to stop personal attacks and or meeting disruptions. If an individual continues to personally attack an elected officials, staff members in the meeting, they may be barred. Okay. To order, pledge of allegiance, please stand. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, one justice for all. Texas, one state, under God.
Thank you all very much. Okay, do we have any public, do we have a quorum?
Yes, the notice was posted at 2 p.m. on June 11th, and we have a quorum with all members present.
Okay, thank you. All right, public comments, limit 3 minutes per person. Do we have any comments?
Ramon Olivas.
Yes.
Honorable Mayor and esteemed council members, greetings first of all. It's a pleasure to be back here in familiar surroundings and with a lot of good people who I've met and worked with before.
Okay, could you
But my
please,
comment for the day,
could you please address your name? Say your name.
okay, my name is Ramon Rodriguez Olivas. I reside in Ward 2 and I reside over at 401 13th Street.
Thank you, sir.
And my comment is that, you folks are in the process now of setting criteria for the selection of city employees in the near future. And it's interesting tasks. And what I applaud you for wanting to do your best to get the best qualified individual to serve in the capacities of the vacancies available. I want you to, if I may, to share with you, keep a couple of things in mind. And this is information that I Googled out of the 2021 census for this year. That the population, the current population now of Alpine is 50% non-Hispanic, 43% Hispanic, and the remaining 6.61% are other basic races, Asian, American Indian, and Black Americans. 66% of Alpine residents speak English. 30.74% of the population speak Spanish. And so with these in mind, I'd like to have you keep in mind as you start establishing the criteria for selection, the importance as a preferred attribute, as a preferred qualification is a candidate who is bilingual and multicultural. And I think this will help tremendously in serving the needs of Alpine in the future. Thank you much.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, anybody else? Anybody on Zoom?
No.
Let's go ahead and move on. We'll start the workshop. First, we'll start with the description of the city manager's criteria. Megan, would you like to?
So in your packets, we provided copies of the current city manager description, which was approved by council in 2018. We also provided copies of our current ordinances, which Division 3 provides the process and powers and duties of the city manager. And then we also provided the city charter that specifically calls out the duties of the city manager. And then we also included some references to other cities. When I asked the current administrative assistant to pull some, just go to different websites, look at the different cities and all that, I tried to get her to focus on ones that are within the same population as the city of Alpine. Pulling a job description from the city of San Antonio, city of El Paso, Dallas, Houston, aren't really cohesive to Alpine. We don't have those type of numbers and that makeup of individuals. So she found several, including ones that are currently listed on TML. So there are several city manager positions that are open across the state of Texas. We thought it would be good to use those just as a guide to walk through the current city manager description, kind of get an idea of what everyone kind of was looking at changing, adding, subtracting. Lorena is here with us because she is HR and ultimately will be the one to type up all of your recommendations and put it in our job description format. So it's just an open conversation. This is just a workshop, so there's no actions to be taken. It's just the guidance so that we can do the paperwork side to make sure whatever changes want to be done to the current formal policy, that we can include those. If we want to change and take stuff out, we can do that. And then once that's prepared, it can be brought back to council for another discussion item and possible approval or table or reject to make more changes. So I don't know how you want to set it up. If everyone each wants to kind of go through questions, comments, lay it all out so that we can get as much of y'all's thought process as possible to.
You know, I went through his duties and responsibilities, he or she's duties or responsibilities. And I'm glad that when she pulled out those cities, they were pretty much in line with our population. And she did put that on the
Yes.
On the sheet, which is good. Because you're right, big city, totally different from ours. So this kind of goes in line. I looked at Hondo and some other little towns, and they were pretty much exactly what we have already. Now, Mr. Olivas made a good point, is the bilingual and multicultural. I think that's crucial here in Alpine.
I did do a little bit of research myself. I went ahead and pulled the Texas City Management Association. And I did notice at the low end, I did a low end and a high end pay salary for a town our size. You know, lots of them like Barnett that are close to, you know, bigger cities, of course, pay more. So I did kind of do a little bit of research on that as well.
Yeah, you know, that's one thing that in the past, what I noticed that some of these small towns, and you made a point of it, that they sit next to a larger city, so they have a higher income. Also, a lot of these small towns have oil producing companies there, which also escalates the pay scale for them. We don't have any of those. We're pretty well isolated. We have no oil, we have no gas. So we've got to keep in mind that the salary should be in line pretty much with what the income of the city is.
So currently the salary is set as a compensation negotiated. So that would be part of the contractual process. When you bring the person on, this is a contract and this is what we're starting at.
I think something to keep in mind other than the fact of the population, although we are, we try to pull some of that population, close to the population of Alpine. We need to keep in mind that Alpine is a little different, and so that we provide a lot of the city provides a lot of the services that some of the other smaller cities don't. We do provide like ambulance service, fire department, trash, refuse, the gas and all that is provided by the city, where in some other small cities like Alpine, it's not. So we need to keep in mind that Alpine is, although the population needs to be kept in mind with others, keep in mind too that the city of Alpine provides a lot of services that other cities do.
Give an example on that piece.
I did, sir.
Yeah, yes, but the fire department,
The fire department is part of the city too.
Right.
I mean, we have the municipal golf course, we have the airport, we have the university, we have ambulance service, trash, building inspections, and court enforcement. As a matter of fact, our revenue, Alpine is the biggest taxing entity here.
yes, yes.
So I mean, although we are a small town, the city manager has quite a bit to deal with that some other smaller towns, I feel, don't. Some issues
The
that are
city
going on.
actually doesn't run the golf course. We own the property, but we don't manage
Yes,
it.
we don't
No,
know.
I know we don't manage it, but we
Oh,
have.
you're
those
thinking
things-
about other services outside of.
Yeah, we have things that he deals with too. I mean, there are a lot of issues come because of that. The university has a lot of issues. The city manager is constantly having to deal with the university. We're in the process of getting an agreement with Solace right now, to where some other cities do not have that. We have over 1,000 city blocks, city blocks and roads. We have numerous parks that they deal with. I just want to keep in mind that they have a lot. Even though Alpine is a small town, the city manager will be dealing with a lot that some other smaller cities do not.
Anybody else? Sure.
Reading through what we have and what the other towns that are comparable to us, they all seem to have the same requirements and qualifications. for city manager. I agree with what Chris is saying as far as there are aspects of Alpine that you might not find. I'm going to use Fort Davis as an example, even though it's not a good one, but they don't have they do have a volunteer fire department and they do have an EMS, but they don't have a hospital, they don't have a university. We do, an airport. We do own a part of the country club, but not all of the country club. I think we only own,
The ninth hole.
and the rest of it is, anyways, it doesn't matter. But in the case of like the university, for instance, we provide fire support for the university. They don't have a fire department. So there is some interaction there between our fire department and the university as far as their needs are concerned. They do have their own police department, but there is still an interaction between our department and their department.
Quite a big one too, since they're quite small. The university police only handle certain misdemeanors and stuff. Everything else is handled through the city, one way or another, through the judicial system or through health. Police. Well, may I ask, is this the city?
That was gonna be a recommendation.
Those are recommendations for the next one. We were trying to jump ahead and get things like cleaned up and kind of,
May I ask what issues city council had with the previous ones?
I think that's out of order.
No,
Because
sir, because we're trying, we're
because
actually bringing somebody in, and we're dealing with somebody's livelihood. And if we put this out and just say at will, I know Texas is an at will state, okay? First of all, I know that, but that still puts us in liability. I don't want to bring somebody that is probably going to be from out of town, because we do not have very many people in town that can do this. That anger us in some way or personally or anything, and we've relocated.
no, we haven't relocated.
No, we probably will be relocating something, because like I said, what are the chances of finding someone that can fill this position here in Alpine?
The way I look at it, council, is if someone is applying for a job, they want to come here. If we go and say, hey, we're gonna hire you, take you away from this other company, then I can see the possibility of relocating for them. No, we have to,
Okay,
is that, am I
Yes,
off?
you're off track.
Okay,
whether they come here or not. It's just if they come here, it's just a bigger deal. But we're asking someone to put in for a position. Okay. I don't want it to be that all of a sudden we're gonna come up and we're fired and then no reason at all, or no reasons given. These people, it's their livelihood. It's not just a matter of we'll find somebody else. It's people's livelihood that we're dealing with. It also puts the city in chances of legal liability. So if we have issues, I do think it's not out of line. I think they need to be dealt with now so that they're not coming up again with somebody else. I have a problem offering somebody a job and 6 months later, we're not happy and we can't tell them why. I feel that they need to have, there's gotta be something that's going to assure them that as long as they keep their end of the bargain, we're gonna keep ours.
Yeah, and I agree. That's why the guidelines are here. They're pretty much in line, and the guidelines that have been used and before I was here.
And I understand that, but
We're
we
still
weren't
the
happy,
same.
we weren't happy with
And,
them, so.
Jessica got fired, same thing.
No,
Yeah,
but Jessica
and so-
had issues that were clearly outlined and discussed with her.
There was a lot of debate on that front, and we're not gonna get into it, but
No, I don't want to get into it, and I don't want to get into the personal part of what just happened with the previous one. I just want to be sure that whatever bothered us with this, with the city manager, with the city secretary, is handled with us here, and it's not going to be an issue with whoever puts in and ultimately gets these jobs. So I think it's fair for me to ask, what part of this did we not like? What part did we have issues with?
that's what we're here for. We have a recommendation.
Well, that's what I want to hear, though. What were the issues?
Again, we're discussing for the future city manager.
Yes,
okay? And
Yes,
so,
I am discussing for the
and
future.
as far as you said, liability, when a manager signs a contract, they're at will, and they are at will they work for the council. And the council, and as far as the compensation, they have been compensated, and that's where the liability kind of goes away. City attorney, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, they had, Eric was compensated.
So,
But even though Texas is an at-will state, is there not some liability in firing someone without probable cause? Well, probable cause, I'm sorry.
Without cause? But generally, no. As a matter of fact, I've attended city attorney workshops on employment law with cities. And the recommendation on firing somebody is that the situation be well documented, but there's no reason to give it. Because when you give a reason, that ends up giving the employee the ability to sue, saying that wasn't a good enough reason. Whereas if you don't give a reason, you're that will employee and you can fire. So, in Mr. Zimmer's case, he had a contract and he was terminated by the council, but his contract was paid off and he accepted the money, so his contract's been completed. So there's no legal liability pending for the city because of that.
I still feel that we need to deal with it, even if it's not a legality, just for the fact that I don't want to bring somebody here. And 6 months later, I mean, I want to know that we're going to be happy with the person that we have, that we're going to give him a chance to do a job for the city, that we're going to lay everything out. And this is what you got to do. And if we do it, we're okay.
and in 6 months, city manager come before council to review the job performance. They're actually pretty much like in limbo or on probation.
Right, and I understand that. And
Until
if we
that
give him
point.
a good one, we can still fire him next week. So what I want to know is everybody happy with this? Because I don't want to go through what just happened again. I don't want to sit here and look two people in the face, 1, 2, 6, whoever they may be, and tell them we're playing with your livelihood and we're not giving you a reason.
I don't think we're playing with their livelihood.
Yes, sir.
And most of your city managers are fully aware that the life expectancy of city managers are 3 years.
I'd like to make it more.
Well, we can't control that.
I know, baby. You're playing with words. You're playing on words with me.
I'm just stating that,
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but do you hear what I'm saying?
yeah, I
We
know,
need to be happy with these forms, because I don't want to be a part of that again.
So I'm gonna get council back on track because the whole purpose of this workshop is to go over the job descriptions and make the changes that if you want to or not. You're not gonna move forward and you're not gonna get much accomplished if you don't at least start the advertising process. And I mean, Gio and I are perfectly fine sitting here for every meeting. But the reason we started this workshop was so that we could go through and make the changes. This was approved under a different city council. This was put together by a different city manager. I mean, it should be reviewed every year. And that would be awesome if we reviewed everything every year, because council, you guys are gonna change and your expectations and your priorities are gonna change. So this is the opportunity, and if we need to go by each one, typical duties and go through each one, and let's add, let's subtract, we don't have to make any changes. But we do need to get back on track so that we can move forward with at least advertising, so you can even interview anyone who's interested.
like I said, what I saw here is, I'm fine with it. The only thing is I'd like to add, need to be bilingual and also multicultural.
So would you
Okay.
want that a preferred item, or would you want
I
that a
would say that
required?
would be a preferred item.
We are a border county.
Sir?
We are a border county.
Yeah, and if, we're not saying that you have to be a certain race on it, just that you have to be versed in those aspects. So we need to kind of put that in there, because I don't want anybody to come back out, you're discriminating against me or whatever. But a lot of the folks here in Alpine, whether you're Hispanic or whatever, you're multilingual. Because, like the attorney just said, you're sitting on the board.
That's definitely a change. I know, Chris, you did mention all the additional outside or external entities and things that they'd have to be working with. I don't remember there being a specific item that says that they're gonna work with other individuals. We have the departments, but would you like to add something that they need to be
No,
able?
mostly that was to keep in mind for the compensation part,
Okay,
just that, it doesn't necessarily have to be added, just to keep in mind that, we're going, like Sarah did some research on that. But let's keep in mind too, that there may be, we're gonna have to pay good money to get somebody good. And the compensation needs to take into account these other things that I think some of the smaller cities don't have.
They should be compensated. I agree with you.
They
They
do.
should be compensated
They should.
according,
And
but
the market one gets paid between 80 and the market gets paid between 80 and 85. I just,
City is about 75. Acres is about 125 plus a car and a house.
Right, but do they have all these other little things to deal with?
Yeah, I would say,
I mean, we
they don't
have,
have the college, but they've got a best college, but they've got, they don't have a gas department.
yeah, and that's what Alpine is lucky to have. I mean, we have all these other services that we as a city provide. They're not out, we provide the sewer, the water, gas. All that. I mean, I just think we need to keep it in mind because it's a lot of work.
I'll do some research on that too. I'll look some of that stuff up.
so to keep in mind with what the city budget is and the number of employees and what we pay also employees. Just, I was looking at some of the pay for some of the employees, especially the ones that work outside. It's kind of sad what they get compensated for the work they do. So, we got to keep all in mind, what can our budget afford?
And I think, with that survey that, that we had, I think that was a good insight for me. I mean, to ask some questions that I had, that I provided.
oh, you're gonna get a response.
So, and, I was glad to be able to complete that.
You got anything?
So how much was irrigate? City manager?
45, I think.
No,
You got a,
45.
I think you got a $5,000 raise.
it's about 150.
Yeah.
I can't remember off the top of my head, sorry. And then there was the car, the cell phone.
I don't think we provided any housing since what Chewy was here. That was the last time.
I don't even remember Chewy getting housing.
Did he get housing? He just had a car.
Pecos actually owns those houses, like the city of Pecos owns the properties, and they use them as an incentive to get people in. Because Pecos is considered very transient. People are always coming and going.
They also don't have any housing. It's very short, very hard to find a house.
So I believe they own what, maybe 2 or 3 houses, maybe
No,
more. It's enticing sometimes when they say we're gonna give you a house.
Well, I mean, because I was provided with housing when I taught in Ozona, and that was enticing for me, you know. It was in a temporary area too.
The city does not own any houses or residential. And you can't put them up in the old firehouse.
STR. You know, if anybody's got anything else to add to it, you know, right now is the time to bring it up.
I mean, is there any specifics that you guys want to address? Do you want to take another opportunity and we can meet again? Kind of,
No, I don't think so. I think we need to move forward with this. And I think, you know, this compensation, when we do have applicants, then we can look at that and then maybe negotiate and then have discussions regarding that when that time arises.
So you're saying to just put it out and just come to be determined or something? I kind of think that some people would kind of like at least a baseline as to what, you know, I know I do, if I'm gonna take a job, I want to know at least a little bit of what I'm looking at, because there are some.
Well, it's just like.
Like I said, in the research that I did, the low end was about 120 and the high end was 135.
But I think if we leave it blank on the ad, it doesn't obligate us. It's for an applicant to say, well, you had it, you had 120,000, I expect to get at least that.
Right.
And we're sitting in here going, well, maybe we'll start at 110. I see a lot of ads in the paper, and it doesn't say how much money they pay.
Right.
For me, I would like to leave that open, and to Sarah's point, a part of the negotiation process when we actually interview the candidates.
so looking at the TML, it doesn't actually post a starting. It does on several of these have a minimum experience. I don't know if that's something you guys want to consider, that they have a minimum experience in local government or public administration of some sort, or even prior city manager, or,
Yeah, and I saw
So
that.
some of that is helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just,
They may not necessarily have city manager experience, but if they have public administration experience and public government experience, I think that's helpful. Someone coming in just from the private industry isn't necessarily a good fit for a small town.
Keep in mind that those people are gonna want, you know, a little bit of money.
well, and this is, I mean, these are straight from TML. Let me say, and they're just 3 to 5
I mean, I
years.
agree with what Ross said. I just think let's keep in mind that, you know, we're gonna have to pay that money to get someone that has a degree, their degree, and has the experience that we're looking for.
Most people I see coming from cities like Alpine usually come here from being an assistant city manager somewhere, or a finance department head, or a utility department head, or something like that. Maybe in a slightly bigger city, this is the way to do it. But they do have experience in the city too.
And I think that's what I saw.
And
But do some of those, but do we wanna, with that being said, do we wanna tie ourselves down to a degree or something like that? Because there are some wonderful people that are doing that may not have.
So
it's good to have a degree.
the current education says a bachelor's in business, political science, or related field required. A master's in public administration preferred. Additional experience and education requirements determined by city council. I think you
Like
guys
she
have the
said,
opportunity to
something-
determine it right now and
Yeah.
put 3 to 5 years or.
Yeah, because I think, you know, in the other towns when I was going through them, you had to have experience, you had to have at least a bachelor or master's degree in it, and in public service, so.
I think the way it's stated right now is.
But do you want that to specifically say 3 to 5 years experience?
I think you could say experience in these things. Would prefer, without
So-
saying the number of years.
Right, I wouldn't want to.
Public government experience preferred.
And, you know,
So experience preferred in public administration or local government?
Yes.
Yeah.
You could
What
strike
kind of
out
a-
the determined by the city council.
What number do you usually get on these positions when they go out? I mean, do we get a whole bunch? And what do
So
they look like? Are they, you know?
I wasn't here for the second go round. The first go round, when Eric left, we received over 100 applications.
And that's what I have heard, that there were
And most
many,
of them
many
are
applicants.
educated, you know, with a degree and all that.
So then, as our side, from the administrative side, we weed out the ones who just flat out don't qualify. They're either don't fill out the packet correctly, or there's information, or the background comes back in, you know, with issues. And then, and this is just, like I said, from prior experiences, we kind of go through and make that judgment, like, okay, here are the top 10 that we feel are the best. And then you guys would, of course, interview them, have the conversations, and you know what, we don't really like these 10. Okay, here's the next top 10. And you kind of are, you know what, we like this one in this group, or you know what, let's
So
try
that
this.
was a great response then in the past.
And that go round, I know when Chuck left, that was in 2013, I had been hired during the interim side of it. And Molly had put out, you know, of course, they'd been advertising for a while. I think they ended up with maybe 15 or 20. It's kind of hit and miss. Like right now, like I said, TML's got 3 comparable to us. That's not 3 altogether. There's about 200 others. So there's a pool, and as long as we get it out to TML and the Texas City Managers Association, and we get it advertised, and we don't, you know, you're gonna get interest. It will go in the paper here, it will go on the radio, it will be on the website.
Eric,
Then
so-
they just leave that. I was just asking because if it was just, you know, very few that met that criteria, but if we have that much, then I think you leave it and
You really do, and like Rod said, I mean, for some employees who are like assistant city managers, directors of finance, it's the last stepping stone to their career. So it's like, you know, I've been an assistant city manager, I've got the experience, I want to step up, I want to move forward. And bigger cities, they actually have complete programs that actually let you do all those steps. So,
Some of the ones that we, when Eric left the first time, we had a number of applicants, somewhere in exorbitant amount of money, they wanted compensation for moving and whatnot. And pretty much all of them says, we're looking for a retirement place.
you'll have those too.
So we weeded out a bunch in that process.
So we move forward with this at this time now.
So the only, just double checking, we're gonna put in a preference of bilingual and multicultural, and we're gonna redact the requirements determined by city council, but request that there be additional experience in public administration or local government.
Yes.
Anymore?
Now we'll clean this up and then bring it back.
Okay.
So that way you guys have that last little review.
Next, we get to the secretary.
So we did leave a copy on your desk. We really were just trying to jump ahead and kind of, I don't know, make some suggestions, throw ideas. City manager's a little bit of a harder position, so we started there. So we thought it might be easier. But we don't know the direction council. Like I said, we were just throwing ideas out there. Gio did look at other cities. I looked at other cities. But once again, this is completely an opportunity to make changes if necessary, if not. There are items that were under the current job description that I know they weren't done because I handle all the insurance claims, so it was an item under the city secretary job description that didn't need to be there.
okay, so all of this is branched out, wasn't being done.
Correct. Well, it wasn't that it wasn't being
Being
done.
done by
It
this
was,
person.
yeah, it was being done by other people. When this got approved, remember, this was under a different administration, different council. So I don't think the duties were ever relinquished to the city secretary because the individuals doing them were just told to do them.
So is it something that needs to be brought back to the city secretary? Or,
I know that I handle all the property insurance claims and it's easy because I already have everything, like, everything set up.
So you're saying we could omit that from your.
I think there's things you
description?
can omit because, there's other staff that are actually taking care of it and have been the whole time. I mean,
Being the financial guru, you have all that available to you, whereas city secretary that didn't or doesn't.
especially on the insurance claims, it's when they basically come back and this is what it's gonna kind of cost. It's having that discussion, okay, this is where we can get in the budget, we're okay with this, we know we're gonna get reimbursed. Is there even a legal aspect, we send it to TNL may pursue it, against that other insurance company. Those are things that, like I said, I started when I started working here in 2013. And Molly didn't take care of those and she was the city secretary at the time.
To take that out of the equation.
I think, yeah, you're gonna probably do more, just some things that just don't pertain. Well, they could pertain, but it's how you want to proceed.
so these are all things that are basically falling on.
No, not all, just, no. No.
Because I guess now, what I'm saying is now would be the time that even though they're being done by someone else, do they need to be brought back, or is, like you personally, doing all the claims, filing all the, the tax reports and all that, that's something.
I don't mind
You have
doing that.
time?
Mhm.
you don't
Yeah, that's
mind.
kind of, I've got that. I'm so routine with it that when I know that we've had an accident and I haven't gotten the paperwork, I'm automatically like, hey, you're not gonna get your vehicle fixed, it's gonna sit there. So for me, it's a routine.
Then I think we should just let you continue to do that instead of trying to train somebody else to do something that you're already knowledgeable and can complete.
Like I said, and Molly didn't even do that, so I don't know why it changed. To be
What
honest.
about the register, the bonds and warrants and the treasurer and all that? Where's that from?
So that one is actually, that's the checks. So council just approved 4, and I even thought about just 4 employees need to sign. It doesn't have to be any specific employee. It could be the city manager, it could be the city secretary, it could
Since
be,
that person's already gonna be here and available, then that would just make it much easier.
or just kind of change the wording, and that may be better is to just change the wording. And then the city secretary doesn't draw all the warrants. The city secretary doesn't cut any checks. Warrants or checks.
So we're taking out the section of the financial position.
Kind of, only because the city secretary has never done it. Now, check signing, we can put that they're they have to be required to sign the checks. That's not, that's not big deal. Like the city secretary has never gone into the accounting system and actually processed payments and cut checks. I try to stay away from part of that as well because I have a team that takes care of that.
So even though they don't, though, this is not part of checks and balances or anything like that?
No, not the way our current system is in place, no. We've got probably too many checks and balance, and that's what gets us in trouble, because we forget the one, the auditors catch it. But we could leave like the countersign the warrants, which would be the signing of the checks.
So are these things in like your job description?
Some of them,
But since they're not, so then we're gonna have to go and redo yours or whoever's these fall under.
yes and no. If you go back to the city managers, 90% of their job description is finances. So it's kind of as duties is assigned. It's not removing out like the finance side. It's just, we have so many checks and balances that were already established within the department that adding more to it is just an opportunity for more mistakes.
But on the other hand, I don't wanna get caught. This could happen and then you don't have the ability to do it.
I don't see that ever being the case. We have specific employees and they are cross-trained, but they stay to theirs.
So none of this is actually big, major stuff.
No.
Good, okay.
Well, and I have a question, can we require that, that they have a degree I mean, I see that it says high school graduate or GED equivalent. And so, I mean, is that something that we might want?
You can require it. I mean, the city secretary job is not,
I mean, because
it's not like a secretary job.
I mean, looking at the pay,
It's
you
more
know,
of an official.
a city secretary is making more than a teacher, even a teacher with a master's degree, and I'm just, you know, I had a master's degree in education, and I didn't make that. So I mean, I'm just saying,
So you also have a degree on your wall.
and we have, you know, that's an opportunity for a lot of people from Sol Ross. I mean, you know, to be able to be qualified for this position.
But is there still a lot that she does too? And I'm saying she was secretary, I just, he or she, I mean, but is there a lot that is not covered on here that they do too?
I wouldn't say that there's not a lot that's not covered. It's that these are broad descriptions, and when you break down the level of what that job, like records, they maintain the records for the city. The city has lots of records, and it's understanding how long you can keep them, when you need to shred them. And it's not just like the admin. I mean, it's keeping track of finance, it's keeping track of utilities, it's keeping track of PD, it's keeping track, I mean, there's a whole slew of them. And that's a big project. It's making sure all of your minutes, your ordinances. So council may pass something, but there's still that whole steps that they have to do that, I mean, it's a lot.
And that's what I want to consider, because like, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from teachers, or anything, but they do quite a lot, and like, Jill can tell you, I mean, they have to go to they attend all the board meetings, you know, all that stuff, so I just hate to, you know.
So these are broad
Right.
duties encompassing a much more detailed list. And I don't know if you want to make it more detailed, because then
No,
there's.
no, I'm not saying that, I'm
Okay.
just telling Sarah, you know, when we're talking the money, let's just keep in mind that these people do a lot.
Right, no, I get that.
I mean,
That's why I'm saying, you know, I would say someone who did have
A
a
degree.
degree.
Yeah, and I'm for that, they should be degreed
Well,
because you.
why can't we leave it at preferred?
Oh, I mean, we
But
can.
then when we look at it,
Okay,
just to see what kind of people we get in.
I don't think we have it as preferred even, so we
Yeah,
would.
you have it
No,
on
we do,
preferred
remember.
bachelor's degree.
Oh, I'm not looking at the updated one. I'm sorry, guys. I'm looking at the other one.
Because like Molly, I think was awesome at what she did. She was here like so many years, you know. I don't know that she had the education now, but somebody like that that's been with the city for so many years, I think their knowledge is probably something that they couldn't have gotten if they had a business degree. So I'd say let's leave it at preferred to see what kind of, it's not gonna keep people that have the education from doing,
right.
but it might give us another
Legal.
10, 15 people to look at that might be, might not.
And I think you're right, as far as enticing people who have the degree from like Sol Ross, Odessa College, maybe even UTEP.
Well, and that's kind of where I was leading, you know, was to bring, you know, more people from this area to be able to apply for this job and not have to have so many that wouldn't qualify for it anyway. You know what I mean? I don't know that.
They're bonus points in the application process.
I think when we go through the screening process, when they go through the screening process at first, they're going to see that if it's,
So
Ones
maybe
with
that
that
if it's a secretary from Dr. Sanchez's office, you know, that's not who we're gonna be meeting, and that can be weeded out.
That's
But-
not the same level of
Yeah,
what a
but
secretary
it might
is.
give us somebody, like I said, that has been dealing with city government for 20 years and it has been an administrative assistant or something, that may, and I'm not saying it might, but let's just not lock ourselves in too much to where we put too many requirements and stuff that we're not getting.
I still kind of want to stand by what I'm thinking. I would like them to have a degree. That's just, that's me. I mean, and I agree with you in a sense, that we would have more people available, but I would prefer somebody to.
And they're gonna put in if they have
Yeah.
the education.
So the ones with education would move higher up on the list,
Right.
because those
Be
are
in
the
the top
ones.
10 and then
Yes,
we get the
you
next
you
10.
would get those automatically off the bat. But then you don't scare away the person who's been an administrative assistant in Marfa for 10 years, who knows everything, but never had the opportunity to get that education.
So we
If that's
just,
how you feel,
just put preferred, you know.
Well, that's preferred.
Okay,
I think that was added,
And
right?
that leaves it open.
just say.
Yeah, it does say on there, but on the comments.
Okay,
What you're suggesting, we can add two.
is that what the rest of y'all want? What do y'all want?
Works for me.
Okay,
For bachelor's degree in business administration, public administration.
Now, on the minimum 2 years administrative secretary experience, do you want to put city experience?
That would be your call. We were just thinking some type of office, like environment.
well, like you said, that would limit people like, once again, so why don't we just leave it like it stated, and then, if they did have city experience, we want them at the top of the list.
And then also, TML provides those courses for some of the things that you're lacking.
So there is that certification as well by the Texas Municipal Clerk certification program. And that is a certificate that takes multiple years to obtain.
And they get training in elections and all that. anyway, so-
It
And
gives them,
how long is it for them to get that?
there's, I mean,
2 to 3
yeah,
years.
you're looking at
Oh,
2 to
that's
3
a
years.
3-year process?
They only offer the course, it's just like in finance, they only offer, say there's 5 courses altogether and you have to test on each course, but they only offer 2 this year,
Right. and then
2
the
this
next
year,
one.
and then like the big final one the last year. And if you time it right, you may be able to get it in 2 years, but they really try to drag it out so that you build up the experience while you're doing the training.
Anything else on that?
No, I don't think so.
Did you have any other feedback?
You all have experience in municipal government. This is one of the preferences.
It's 5 years progressively responsible administrative secretary experience in the public sector or an equivalent combination of education and
So
experiences.
this isn't the one that's in here, other than this one?
It's highlights.
It's on the one that's up.
It's in the.
Oh, okay, I see it here. Well, I say we update it. And start moving forward with this as well.
I think one of the other changes was just probably more technicalities, like the county tax assessor, it's actually the elections administrator. Administrator, I haven't had enough energy drinks today. Kind of just assessing the right people they're supposed to get a hold of. I don't think the county tax assessors had the voter list for a while.
Okay.
I say we move forward with that
Let's
as
go
well.
to the attorney.
That's not.
That's
It's
not
on
in
there.
here.
That's on the other.
It's just these two.
Yeah, well, I think,
So we'll clean up your recommendations. We'll highlight the changes so that you have a clear visibility. And then on the July 6th meeting, it will be an action item.
Okay,
It will be a 2-part action item to approve the job descriptions and to advertise. So,
anything else? Okay.